Bonjour, good morning. Tervetuloa. Mr. President, Minister Puisto, Minister Jolie, Minister McGuinty, Secretary of State Feuer, Mayor Sutcliffe, Parliamentary Secretary Jenna Sudds, Senators and Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, it is my immense pleasure to welcome you to the high-level business forum organized by the Embassy of Finland at Nokia Canada's headquarters. The business forum today is focused on Arctic capabilities, defense, security, and resilience. Today we will explore possibilities for enhanced cooperation between Finland and Canada, and also highlight the role of companies in defense, economic security, and resilience in the Arctic region. With increasing attention to the security of the Arctic, Finland and Canada stand at the forefront of the discussion. Together, as like-minded Arctic countries and technologically advanced allies, they are both committed to building and investing in resilient Arctic infrastructure at a time of increasing geopolitical power competition. As I said, my name is Jeff Maddox. I'm the president of Nokia Canada. We're honored to host this business forum at a critical time, a hinge moment, as we explore the possibilities for enhanced cooperation, both between Canada and Finland and also between private industry and defense. It is traditional in Canada that we would start events, formal gatherings like this, to take a moment and share a land acknowledgement, one which we have carefully prepared with guidance from the elders in a local First Nation, Kitigan-Zibi. We recognize that Nokia operates on the ancestral, historical, and current traditional territory of the Anishinaabe-Algonquin Nation. The Anishinaabe-Algonquin Nation have lived on this territory for millennia, stewarding the land, the water, and all that contributes life in this region. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. We honor the land of the Anishinaabe-Algonquin Nation, their valuable past and present contributions to the territories of this land. We commit to learning the truths and to being active collaborators in the process of reconciliation. Now, many of you are familiar with Nokia, a proud Finnish company which was founded in 1865. However, if you allow me, I would like to take a moment and provide a lens into Nokia from a Canadian's perspective. We're hosting you today in what is Nokia Canada's headquarters, where we have operated since about the mid-1980s, when Newbridge was founded in these very buildings. We employ approximately 2,500 Canadians, the majority of which are doing critical research and development, and we happen to be the largest telecom equipment manufacturing company doing R&D in Canada at the moment. Now, you may also have noticed on this side of the campus as you arrived this morning, the start of our new campus investment, a $1 billion project. Construction will begin shortly, and that will be our footprint for the next decades to come. Our history in Canada, however, dates much farther back into the archives. Nokia, as we know it today, is in fact a combination of the assets of Nokia, but also of Alcatel and Lucent, the French and American telecom giants. Before Lucent was formed, the company operated as Western Electric. And in 1895, Western Electric was responsible for building Canada's first telephone network. As we sit here today, in addition to building networks that connect people, as we navigate the AI supercycle, we now find ourselves in an era of connecting intelligence. From this facility, our engineers are developing some of the world's most critical technologies. 800 gigabit optics that connect hyperscaler data centers, build long-distance fiber optic networks, and connect subsea fiber. We developed the software that controls and operates much of Canada's 5G network. This campus is home to one of Nokia's most important centers of excellence for quantum-safe networking innovation, and data center switching that is responsible for connecting and moving the vast quantity of data required to power artificial intelligence. Now, with that in mind, I'm pleased to announce that yesterday Nokia has signed a memorandum of understanding with Export Development Canada to collaborate on AI gigafactories. Nokia builds communication infrastructure to enable the world's AI connectivity. We are also bringing this intelligence to the edge of the battlefield in Ukraine and into headquarters in NATO. The old divide between civilian and military communications is no longer quite so distinct. Instead, we focus now on identifying dual-use capabilities. Networks can detect and activate response for first responders. They can also use the radio network to sense drones and subsea fiber assets to detect submarine movement. And I am delighted to be joined here today by my colleague Eric Kunislati, who heads Nokia's defense organization. Now, let's get started with today's business forum. And as we commence to do so, I would really like to honor and welcome to stage His Excellency, Sakari Puisto, Minister of Economic Affairs of Finland, to give his welcoming words. Minister Puisto.
Thank you. President, ministers, ladies and gentlemen, it's great to be here in a very timely forum. And I'm very happy to be on the state visit to Canada, a nation with whom Finland shares a northern identity and commitment to the stability of the Arctic region. The presence and number of distinguished guests and companies underline how seriously we all take the question at the heart of this forum. How do we build resilience and strengthen comprehensive security in Arctic regions, together and with the support of innovative industries? For both Finland and Canada, the Arctic is not an abstract concept. It's where we live and work, it's our neighborhood, and it is our responsibility. Well, it's our home. And increasingly, it's also where the global security environment is being tested. With these words, I look forward to the conversations and collaboration that will shape the rest of our day. And let's not be modest, the years to come in our collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Puisto. Now it is my great pleasure to welcome on stage I would like to invite on stage now the Honourable David McGuinty, Minister of National Defence for Canada, to give his keynote remarks. Sorry, I read a paragraph ahead. My apologies. Please join me over here.
I'll take that, Excellency, any day. Thank you very much. And bonjour, monsieur, madame. Good morning, everyone. Senator Patterson, ministers, Parliament. To see you again. We met at a NATO meeting. I think you barely noticed me, but now you will take note of me because I am an Excellency. It's also great to see you all here this morning. Just a few weeks ago, I had my eye operated on, so my vision is now apparently 22/20 or something of the kind. A couple of days after the surgery, I called my wife over and I said, "It's very urgent. You must come and see me. I have a problem. I'm having a real problem with my eye." And she said, "What is it?" And I stood in front of the mirror and I said, "I can't believe how many wrinkles I have." And she said, "Be quiet and go to work." It's a great privilege to be here with you this morning to speak to you. And with your indulgence, I'd rather not try and speak in Finnish. I do know a few words. I'm working on my Finnish, but I do, like most Canadians, know a few words. Words like Saku Koivu, Jari Kurri, and Mika Kuprasov. Outstanding athletes, outstanding diplomats for Finland as well, of course. It's great to see so many representatives from Canadian and Finnish companies here, as well as colleagues from both our governments. For those of you visiting us from outside Canada, thank you. Thank you for making the trip. It's a long way. Je tiens aussi à remercier Nokia Canada d'avoir organisé l'événement d'aujourd'hui. Je ne trouve pas de meilleur exemple d'entreprise finlandaise ayant une forte présence au Canada. Vous employez des milliers de personnes rien qu'ici à Ottawa. Vous avez joué un rôle crucial dans les réseaux de télécommunications canadiens pendant des décennies. Et grâce au nouveau partenariat pour la recherche et le développement avancé que nous avons annoncé en novembre dernier, votre contribution au maintien de la connexion entre les Canadiens et Canadiennes de partout au pays ne fait que croître. Le succès de Nokia au Canada montre ce qu'il est possible d'accomplir quand nous travaillons ensemble. When we work together, a theme I'll return to. There's so much potential for us to expand our relationship and work more closely together on our shared goals, including in the defense sphere. As you're no doubt aware, all of you, Canada's on a mission. We're on a mission to rebuild our defenses, strengthen our security, and strengthen our sovereignty. We're strengthening partnerships as well with like-minded nations who want to do the very same thing. We have a lot we can learn from each other as we navigate this difficult geopolitical moment. Of course, we're not starting from scratch. Our economic ties are already strong. Canada imports about $1.8 billion in goods from Finland each year and exports roughly $620 million in return, with another $800 million in services. These are not small numbers. But our relationship goes beyond trade. Canada and Finland are bound by shared values: democracy, equality of opportunity, a deep commitment to peace and stability, values that we should not fear repeating. Nous sommes aussi façonnés par la géographie. En tant que pays du Nord, nous comprenons l'importance de l'Arctique, non seulement comme région, mais aussi comme volet de notre identité nationale, de nos communautés autochtones et nordiques et de notre sécurité nationale et climatique. Sur le plan militaire, les forces armées canadiennes et les forces de défense finlandaises se sont entraînées ensemble et ont participé à des opérations et des exercices conjoints pendant des années. Des exercices comme Arctic Forge et Cold Response, qui ont mis des compétences de nos deux forces armées à l'épreuve dans des conditions arctiques difficiles ces dernières années, comme l'opération Nanook, l'opération phare du Canada dans le Nord, qui vise à exercer la défense du Canada et à protéger nos régions du Nord, et à laquelle la Finlande a participé l'an dernier. Aujourd'hui, les forces armées canadiennes terminent en fait leur premier déploiement de 2026 sous la bannière de l'Operation Nanook. Bien que les forces de défense finlandaises n'aient pas pris part à ce déploiement, cette mission gagne nettement en ampleur et je sais qu'il y aura davantage d'opportunités pour nos forces de travailler ensemble à l'avenir. Since Finland joined NATO in 2023, our defense relationship has only grown. Together, we help safeguard NATO's northern flank. We're working side by side to address emerging threats, including hybrid and cyber challenges on the ascendancy through institutions like the Helsinki-based excellent Hybrid Center of Excellence. In an era of growing instability, we are growing stronger and more resilient by working together. And the joint statement our two countries released last year on establishing a foreign and security policy strategic partnership is proof of that. This statement puts us on a path to enhance our cooperation and advance collaboration on foreign and security policy. And I look forward to building on this momentum together, working together. And we're not just talking about military cooperation. Canada's reinvestment in defense brings new opportunities for industry, yours and ours. And this is where all of you come in. Over the last year, Canada has significantly boosted its defense spending, reaching 2% of our GDP for the first time since the fall of the Berlin Wall. And this is just the beginning. As we look to the next NATO benchmark of 3.5% of GDP, we're making sure we get there in a way that strengthens both our security and our economy. To meet this ambitious target, we need to position our industry to provide technological and operational advantage to our armed forces, supporting Canadian businesses as they build for our military, and empowering them to export their made-in-Canada solutions around the world. In an increasingly uncertain world, Canada and Finland are stepping forward as partners. It's natural. We fit in building secure, sovereign defense capabilities. From advanced semiconductors to next-gen communications, our countries bring complementary strengths. Everyone in this room knows the world is changing, and how, and quickly. And our adversaries are not waiting for us to catch up, so we need to move with urgency as well, while still ensuring we deliver the right equipment at the right time in a way that strengthens Canada's and Finland's defense industrial base. We've already taken major steps to do just that. We've established a new defense investment agency, bringing key players together under one roof to accelerate the delivery of military capabilities. We've streamlined decision-making and reduced layers of bureaucracy, and this agency will help us move faster and deliver results. At the same time, we're expanding access to capital. Through the Business Development Bank, we're making up to $6 billion in new financing available for small and medium-sized enterprises working in defence. And through changes to Export Development Canada's approach, we're making it easier for Canadian companies to export to allies and partners, including in Europe and the Indo-Pacific. Previously, BDC and EDC were barred from fully participating in the defence sphere. But with these changes, we're helping Canadians access billions of dollars of untapped potential. These efforts will keep us on track as we implement Canada's first ever defence industrial strategy, which introduces a new formula for procurement. Build, partner, buy. What does this mean? It means wherever we can, we're building here at home, prioritizing made-in-Canada solutions for our defence needs. But we also recognize we can't do everything ourselves, and it would be foolish to attempt to do so, which is why we're partnering with trusted allies and multinational firms to deliver joint military capabilities and to create new commercial opportunities for Canadian, and in this case, Canadian and Finnish firms. Recently, and it's a real honour, we were brought into the Security Action for Europe initiative, or SAFE, as a partner nation. We're proud to be the only non-EU country that's part of this initiative, which gives Canada access to 150 billion euros worth of lending and borrowing from EU states. This means we'll be better able to acquire new capabilities from allies like Finland and export Canadian innovations as well. And of course, third leg of the stool, we know there are times where the best solution will be to buy off-the-shelf capabilities from beyond our borders. But not just from anyone, from like-minded allies who share our values, who mean what they say, and who say what they mean. So through this new framework, we'll be looking to our allies and partners when it makes the most sense to, with strong conditions for reinvestment into the Canadian economy and mechanisms to ensure Canada retains sovereign control over newly acquired assets. Il s'agit donc d'un changement majeur dans l'approche du Canada pour le financement de la défense. Par le passé, il y avait une réticence au Canada à considérer la sécurité économique et la sécurité nationale comme les deux revers d'une même médaille. Jusqu'à maintenant, nous n'avons pas été en mesure d'exploiter tout le potentiel de l'industrie de défense du Canada. Nous y remédions. Already seeing results. As some of you may know, back in 2024, we launched a project to replace our aging Victoria-class submarines with a fleet of up to 12 conventionally powered under-ice capable subs. Last August, we announced that we had down-selected to 2 potential suppliers for this new fleet. In the past, it would have taken us several years, probably 3, to get to this phase of the project. But through an accelerated process, we were able to make these selections in just under 4 months. This is a big deal. It means that we'll be able to provide CAF members with this critical capability that much sooner. It's a great early sign that our efforts to transform how we work with industry are bearing fruit. These changes are bringing us closer to Finland's total defense concept. We're learning from the 80-year head start, Mr. President, that your country has. We too are expanding defense's role in our economy. We too are shoring up our capabilities and industrial resilience. Canada's defense relationship with Finnish industry is already well established. We currently have 35 contracts with Finland's defense industry worth about $8.4 million, and Canadian defense companies have a growing presence in Finland as well. Thanks to the 2024 Icebreaker Coalition effort, the Ice Pact between Canada, Finland, and the United States, Chantier Davy now has a presence. Through this agreement, one of the Canadian Coast Guard's new polar icebreakers is being built there and in Lévis, Quebec. That's partnership. The result is that shipbuilders from both our countries get to share their expertise and grow their skills side by side. These are more than transactions, ladies and gentlemen. They're partnerships. And we need partnerships like these as we continue to rebuild, rearm, and reinvest in our armed forces. Let me conclude with this. I come from a family of 10 children. And my mother, who was a saint, you can imagine, pretty chaotic, pretty hectic, would sit us down from time to time and she would remind us, you have a choice to make. She would say, if you pull apart, you will feel as if you were 5. But if you pull together, you'll feel like you're 20. Now's the time for countries like ours to pull together. At a time of global uncertainty, and we know the waters are choppy, we need to strengthen our partnerships. We need to build resilience. We've got to seize on the opportunities, and we've got to work together for our shared security and our prosperity. Thank you so much for being here today and for listening so attentively. Kiitos. Thank you. Don't apologize. I'll take it.
Well, my congratulations to the excellent Minister McGuinty on his promotion, and thank you for your remarks. We're happy to be able to announce that to you today. I figured it was only a matter of time before I'd managed to make a couple of mistakes up here. So, well, now we move to another part of the agenda here. We will host a panel or a fireside chat titled "The Role of Companies in Building Defense, Economic Security, and Resilience." It is now my great pleasure to welcome on stage His Excellency President Alexander Stubb of the Republic of Finland, the Honourable Melanie Joly, and Minister of Industry of Canada. The fireside chat this morning will be moderated by Vashi Kapelos, Chief Political Correspondent of CTP News. Please join me on stage here.
Right there, sir, yeah. Thank you. Yes. See you again. Hi, Vashi. Good to see you. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you both. I appreciate it. We're going to talk about economic resilience today, what it means, how it's being threatened, and in both the Finnish and Canadian context, kind of how we might define it moving forward. And then, President, I'll start with you on the very basic question of how, at this moment in time, you are defining economic resilience.
I think it starts from an understanding that we live in an age of unpeace, which means that the things that were supposed to bring us together, like technology, energy, currency, trade, interdependence, they're now used as instruments to tear us apart. And this trend began probably sometime around COVID with value chains, and then was put on steroids with Russia's attack on Ukraine in February 2022. So I think the mindset that we all have to have is that, the world of 1989, 1991, which was all about market, has shifted more towards state. And I think what we need to understand as the public sector and the private sector is that we actually need to somehow integrate these two. So for us in Finland, economic resilience begins with security of supply. It begins with having fairly safe and protected value chains. It begins by de-risking and sometimes hedging. And sometimes that has to happen from both the East and the West. I won't say more than that.
Minister, do you agree that we're defined right now by unpeace? And what do you think that means in the Canadian context for our own economic resilience?
Well, yes, I would agree with that definition. I think, when we think about economic resilience, we have to first and foremost identify what's the problem. And the problem actually was first and foremost, the trade war that was launched against many of us, including obviously Canada, and we're dealing still with the impacts of tariffs, with hundreds of thousands of jobs at risk. Now, we still believe we have one of the best deals on earth, but we have the steel industry, the auto sector, the aluminum sector, the forestry sectors that are all impacted by tariffs. And these are real people with families and livelihoods at stake. And so, in that context, we as a country know that we're over-dependent on the US, and that's why we need to take care of our own house, our own home, our own economy, and to do so also we need to have different trading partners to reduce that over-dependency risk. So, we've presented a framework of protecting workers. So we're doing so many different things to protect the different tariff sectors. We also presented an approach to create jobs, also create much more value. David was referring to a defense industrial strategy. I'll have the chance to talk to you about it. And we are really doubling down on major projects and natural resources, etc. And then afterwards, we need to attract talent even more, notwithstanding what's going on in the world, and also being able to attract investment. So, I agree with what the president said, and I can say Alex. Alex has said, because indeed that started way before just the trade war. We saw it under the Trump administration's first mandate. It was COVID, and we still remember what happened during that time. And being preoccupied whether we would have respirators here in the country. And then also, of course, Europe went through it even more during the invasion, the illegal invasion of Ukraine. And at the same time, we were already friends, Finland and Canada, but we were the first to really, how can I say, push for Finland to, and eventually ratify Finland's accession to NATO. So, we were always, good friends, but now we're actually dating.
Well, I see the headline coming there.
Yeah. I'm going to make sure we write it.
I'm sure, but
It was intended. It was intended.
It was, and I have to say that fortunately Finns have a short memory, because friends after Conor McDavid's goal a few seconds ago.
That is fortunate. I wanted to pick up, President, on something that you said in your first answer about sort of this movement from all, a market focus to more of a state market. If I interpreted what you said right, there's a different balance, essentially, that you might view as necessary now. What are the implications of that at the political level? How does the political level drive that balance as you see it?
Well, for us, of course, the starting point is that we would have probably not joined NATO was it not for Russia's war of aggression on Ukraine. So that sort of set the stage for both Finland and Sweden. And then after that becomes an understanding that there's a mix of hard power and soft power. But that mix is sort of becoming hybrid between the two. So hard power is not anymore only military stuff. Soft power is not anymore only trade in regular goods and services. You see that here today we have 40 Finnish companies and 20 are involved in defense, 10 are in tech, 5 in mining, etc. So you start seeing these hybrid companies coming in. So I guess my message is for us to understand that it's not anymore the public sector doing security only and the private sector doing money only.
Yeah.
It's actually a mix between the two, and I think that's the mindset we should probably have.
So it's an interesting parlay into what you're in charge of, Minister, right now, which has essentially been, over the past number of months, designing a brand new defense industrial policy and now implementing it. I think with an ear and with the goal in mind of doing more of this, right? More of a mix of the private sector working to advance goals that the state has set in this case, and Minister McGuinty laid out. How key is that strategy to our economic resilience in your view, Minister?
Well, okay, so a couple of things. I think that first and foremost, when you think of the Davos speech of the Prime Minister, it was all about, denouncing the impacts of U.S. protectionism and also the impact of hyperscalers, which were big tech. And so we have to bear that in mind, that as we're dealing with a security crisis, as we're dealing also with the economic impacts of everything linked to changing geopolitics and mainly trade policy, there is also an industrial revolution happening in AI, etc. So all that is affecting people in Finland, all that is happening people in Canada, to people in Canada. So what we need to be able to work on is to make that vision of the Davos speech happen. It's one thing for governments to talk. People here, part of the business delegation, need to be able to do business amongst each other. And so what is important also is that we work with countries like Finland and Europe also to have similar industrial policies, because the challenge we have is, as US protectionism can have an impact, or economic coercion from other countries can have an impact, fundamentally, we may be in a reaction mode of saying, okay, well, we'll put counter tariffs, and everybody will put counter tariffs. And then we're in that spiral that will have an impact, and have an impact on supply chains like Alex was mentioning. So the issue we need to work on is also aligning our industrial policies to make sure on defense. But, yes, we're part of the steel exception of the European Union. That is so important because we need to be able to continue to export aluminum, or, we're not exporting a lot of steel, but we need to really align our industrial policies to create that real trading bloc, which is behind the idea of the Davos speech of middle powers together. That's really important. And so that is why we need to also work on the business delegation front, align our industrial policies. The EU was created based on the Schuman Declaration. And the Schuman Declaration was basically Germany and France agreeing that in order to stop wars, there needed to have a partnership on coal and also on steel. Now, we're not in that world now, but we need to be closer to our friends to be able to align these types of industrial policies. And that's why we can do so, like Alex was saying, and I really like his quote, it's not only business, it's really state to state. Because then we're able to say, here's the level playing field for our businesses in our different countries, and then you can play by the rules. And by the way, we'll respect the rules we're putting in place.
So Finland has a very interesting model of how companies participate in particular in the defense space, but in sort of what you have determined is, let's say, an objective, or if Finland faces a crisis, like the role of the private sector is unique in the world. How is that incentivized? How is that maintained? How important is it from your perspective, President?
Yeah, we call it comprehensive security, and the Swedes might call it total defense. But we have a system which starts from the premise that wars are fought in battlefields, but they're actually won at home. And our experience from the Winter War and the War of Continuation, which sounds far back out there, was that when that thing hits the fan, you need to be prepared on the civilian side. And, of course, as President and Commander-in-Chief, I'm, in the fortunate position that I'm probably the only person in the nation that has a total overview of all of the different players in our society, starting from the border guards, to the police, to the military, to our cyber defense, and to our civilian protection and security of supply. And the basic philosophy is such that on the security of supply, we have an agency which is tasked with somewhere between 18 to 20 different things that can take place between a weather storm and kinetic warfare. And we need to be prepared for all of those. And what the Agency of Security of Supply has done, which is public sector, run by our Minister of Economy, is that they forge private and public partnerships. And I'll just give you two examples. One is in the energy sector. So we have the public sector, which then has deals with our main energy companies like Neste Oil, for instance. We have X amount of places where we store our energy and especially our petrol and diesel. We are one of the few countries in the world that are self-sufficient for 6 months. Usually it's for about 90 days in case of a crisis, and it's because there's an agreement between the private and the public sector. The same thing goes for food security. We're 80% self-sufficient in food, so grain and other things. And there's a deal between the farmers, who are essentially companies, and then the public sector on how much they store, when, where, and how. And this then runs throughout society. And then if we sort of add on an interesting element, which I don't know, Melanie, if you guys are thinking about doing this, we have this National Defense Course, which is an indoctrination of our private and public sector into things related to defense. It's an honor to get invited. We have about 4 courses a year. They take, 40, 50 people into the course, and they have to leave work for 3 weeks. And then they get a special task, an understanding of how the system works. So what I'm trying to say is that I think we have our whole society incorporated into a system. Final point, we also have conscription, so obligatory military defense. That's why we have 1 million men and women who've done it in Arctic conditions.
So Finland obviously lives with a very different threat than the one we are sort of becoming accustomed to now, Minister.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what you take, though, from the example of what the President just described.
Well, many things. I think there are a lot of things we can learn from Finland's example, and we'll have a good conversation with the Minister of Defense on that. You were talking about the courses that are offered. These are all, obviously the very strong civilian component of the defense. Also, all things that we should be studying, we should be looking at. I think for us, we've been blessed by geography for a long, long time. Although we're Arctic countries, we were very benefiting from the peace dividend for a long, long time. But at the same time, we took, I think, the world order as it is organized right now for granted. And because I think we were part engineers and architects of that, world order. But at the same time, I think we saw, particularly with the arrival of this new American administration, first, what were really the changes and what was at play. Now, we have been concentrating massively on the economy per se, and the defense industrial strategy is extremely important because it is not only the first defense industrial strategy we're having, but Vashi, I would say it's the biggest industrial strategy we've ever had in our country since the Second World War, because it has a budget of $500 billion by Canadian dollars by 2035, which is humongous. Now, it's a part infrastructure, but and of course it's to support the strong men and women that are part of our Canadian forces, but it is to create 125,000 jobs. And we are very much aware that this strategy is also used as an economic stimulus to help sectors that are being tariffed or that are affected. And so it has a dual purpose. So we have lost over the years, because I think of the lack of investment in defense, some of the innovation opportunities we had that we developed over time, particularly maybe in aerospace, maybe in telecommunication, etc. And I think this entire idea of creating jobs here, but owning IP, investing in innovation, finding ways for ultimately to be able to provide the Canadian workers with the latest technology, help us lead a lot of things. If it wasn't that on peace, and so it's really good. We can't only look at our sector cannot, our manufacturing sector cannot only look at Canada. We need to be able to value, and the real value will come from the so that's why Finland is important, and we'll talk about the shipbuilding strategy. This is also, all countries are increasing their investment in defense. So we'll create a lot of, we have to see part of that market.
Well, I want to conclude actually with a question to each of you on the opportunities that exist, because you've heard now from both ministers about, a deliberate change in posture from an industrial perspective, from a defense perspective. Canada certainly wants the world to know, in their view, things have changed. You've been here now for a day. You've held a lot of meetings. Do you feel that that change is real? And what opportunities do you see that you may not have 6 months ago?
Yeah,
particularly where Canada and Finland are concerned together.
Sure. First off, I love the way you guys say "about." Yeah, it's just, that's like kind of reveals a Canadian right away. About. I wasn't going to say that, but you said it twice. So, what are the revelations apart from the fact that our value base is the same, apart from the fact that our interest base is the same? apart from the fact that we tried to project power in a similar kind of a way, and apart from the fact that you're more like big sister and we're, little sister in the system. For me, I think the revelation comes from how similar some of our industrial base is and how much knowledge, know-how, and expertise we have.
Yeah.
So if you look at the defense sector, I think there's a lot of synergies there. If you look at our tech sector, you bring in satellites, quantum computing, and networks. We're here at Nokia,
That's it.
of course, which is the only non-Chinese network provider that give you overall services. That's a pretty good pitch for the company, isn't it? And then, you're a superpower in mining, and we have most critical minerals, and we have, 5 mining companies that are here. So there's just so many things that we can do, and I think, especially for you guys, because you're hedging and you're diversifying your economy. A country like Finland, as part of the European Union, I think is more of an asset than a reliability. So I'm sure that when we come out of here, there are going to be a lot of companies that will have made deals and corporate structures. The only sad thing is that I don't get any commission.
Minister, very similar question to you. If you were to envision, and Minister McGuinty had laid out some of the, bare statistics where trade is concerned, but if you were to envision what this relationship looks like between our two countries 5 years from now, how would you describe it?
Well, if you put Canada and all the Nordic 5, we would be pretty much the 4th biggest economy in the world. So, I know
Canada plays a bit of a role there, I think.
But we have a lot in common. The question, and there's, common history also with a lot of people from Finland also that came to Canada. There are strong communities, etc. But we need to make it happen now. So good examples is definitely what Defen Shipyard has been able to do when buying the Helsinki shipyard. That was good news. And now it's a real partnership as we're part of the ICE Pact that was developed under President Biden, but that I think President Trump is very supportive of in order to increase our capacity in terms of our Arctic icebreakers. There's C-SPAN also on the Pacific side that has worked with Roma shipyard also to be able to do an exchange of expertise and design. I really think that on the shipbuilding side, we can be much more strong together. And I think that by really creating this second phase of the national shipbuilding strategy, which was to support our needs, but now working with Finland to be able to export, to be able to seize the Arctic icebreakers market as potentially the UK, France, other Arctic countries, Japan could be interested in buying. And also there are other models of ships that we could be looking at. On satellites, obviously. On AI and quantum, obviously. I've said also to my team, I've said also to Justin Hodlard, who is in charge of Nokia, when I was in Helsinki back in August, we want more investments from Nokia in Canada. We're at the forefront of quantum. We could invest even more in having this very strong partnership. So I think we're not yet in the golden age of the Canada-Finland relationship, because there are a lot of things to do that is not only state to state, but that is actually business to business to happen. But we can definitely get there. I really think the partnership is something that we should nourish, and I profoundly believe in it.
A perfect positive note to conclude on. Thank you very much. Thank you, President. Thank you, Minister. A pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Minister. Appreciate it. Thank you, President.